Welcome everyone. So you want to be a contestant. This is a webinar specifically designed to talk about being a contestant in the upcoming Toastmasters contest. We have contest season in the spring now and then coming up again in the fall. In the spring we have the International Speech Contest and the Evaluation Contest. And then in the fall is the ever popular Humorous Speech Contest and Table Topics. Tonight specifically we are going to be talking about, once we get the view there, these are the three items that we are covering. Enhancing experience, getting past fear, and then getting a sense of what resources are available as a contestant. Now, as with any webinar, you can't possibly cover absolutely everything about a contest or being a contestant in a contest sufficiently within a 1-hour time period. What I'm doing is presenting a few ideas from several of the contests that I've been involved with, as well as conversations I've had with many different Toastmasters over the years about their experiences in contests, what they have gained from it, how they've gotten past their own fears, and even some of the resources that they have been able to find and share. Let's look at our first topic, enhancing the experience within Toastmasters. All of these items here were specifically talked about by several Toastmasters that I engaged with this actual question. How does being involved in a contest enhance your experience of Toastmasters? Now, arguably, since contests are only twice a year, they're not the regular, everyday, run-of-the-mill meeting that we encounter. So how is it that being involved in a contest that only takes place twice a year can enhance your own experience? These are some of the items. Now, when you look at that list, I'm going to read off specific quotes that people sent me about how they've enhanced their experience. One Toastmaster says, "You expose yourself to lots of speakers whom you would not otherwise see and listen to. This is particularly the case at division and district speech contests. You can learn a lot from all of those different speakers." Another Toastmaster wrote, "I think it was a combination of competing early in my Toastmasters career and then watching others compete that gave me the most growth. I was able to identify some of my glaring presentation weaknesses through the examples that were set by other competitive speakers." Another quote, "When I committed to entering an area contest after winning the club contest, which I had only entered to increase participation with no idea of moving forward, I buckled down and worked on my speech to bring it up to a better level. I placed second at area. The benefit for me, it increased my confidence in speaking exponentially. Competing," on another quote, "competing has led me to increased practice and improvement as a result." I want to spend just a couple moments with two items on this list before you. The second from the bottom, build leadership skills by avoiding contests. I found that one was rather interesting. It was something that I hadn't expected when I did a bit of my research. And one of the quotes I got back I thought was rather telling. "I don't compete because I'm a district officer. However, it has propelled me to stay in leadership so that I don't make a fool of myself." Now there is certainly one of the most creative reasons for not being in a contest, but yet at the same time, she acknowledges that she's building leadership skills. It's absolutely a win-win situation all the way around. Now let's look a little bit more closely at the last item on that list. Improving your message through repetition. Message. Oftentimes, we stand up to give a speech and we don't necessarily know quite what we're trying to say. The message in the speech is hidden behind a layer of fog or clouds. And as we continue to work our way through a speech, and if we revisit that same subject matter, our message becomes clearer, not only to us, but the people that are listening to us. It's these messages that aren't as clear, that are not as effective as they could be. One of the benefits of being in a contest is you get the opportunity to take a message and refine it again, and refine it a third time, so that through a process of focusing your material, you are able to come to the apex of a message that you want to present. Especially if you win a club contest and you move on to an area contest, you're refining. Then from an area contest to the division contest, and even onward to the district. Every single time you present that information, you are getting better at it. You're finding what works. You're finding what doesn't work, in fact. One of the respondents that I sent this out to sent me back a very telling commentary about their own experience. And it's through that process of continuing to compete that they were able to refine each and every level of their message. And here's the quote. You learn to make tough decisions as you go through and change your speech. Sometimes there is a particularly good line that you love, but after you edit out some parts of the speech, that one lovable line just doesn't seem to fit anymore, and you have to cut it out. This is a hard thing to do the first time it happens, but then you realize that the whole speech fitting together is much more important than just one line. It is through this process of repetition that you discover that message. You discover not only what is important, but what you want to share. The several times that I've been through contests, it has always been this point that has been the most challenging, to find the message that I really wanted to get across, to really refine it down, to find that point where it resonated with me emotionally, and it resonated with the audience as well. By defining the message and being involved in a contest, you get the opportunities to return to it over and over again, the same subject, and refine it down until it becomes crystal clear. Because imagine if this was your audience. 4,000 some odd people in the Keller Auditorium during a TEDx Portland event. Now that is a lot of pressure. And you can be certain that at this point, having a message that is clear, having a message that is effective, is incredibly important. If this was in fact your audience, and you standing there right in the center of the front of the stage, what imagine you would be feeling? Well, for me, there's a level of excitement, but there's also that twinge of fear. Yeah, that's the second subject we're talking about tonight. Fear and some ideas of how to get past it. Fear, when you step back and look at it, tends to be a bit nebulous, a little bit like the clouds coming in over a ridge. You know it's there and it's obscuring what's underneath, but yet at the same time, it's something you have to deal with. Now, fear takes on different forms for every single person. For some person, it is the fear of the intangible, the unreal, the unknown. And other times, it's very simply the fear of what's going to go wrong. How am I going to screw this up? And are people even going to talk to me afterwards? So you have the emotional burden. You have performance anxiety. You have that fear that you won't do well, that you're under your own expectations and much too much pressure that you put on yourself. And then at the very end, there's the very real fear of stage fright. When you get up to that point, you're going to step in front of your audience. You're going to do your evaluation of the target speaker. You're going to present your speech. All of those items engender the anxiety of stage fright. I was at a recent club meeting where a club member got up and talked about fear as an acronym, F-E-A-R. She said fear is false evidence appearing real. Now, I know my experience with fear, it feels like a 2-ton chain around my neck, keeping me from really wanting to do anything. Either it's not wanting to do the competition, not wanting to give a speech, not even wanting to be there, really just wanting to avoid it. But yet, the best way for me to approach that fear is through repetition. Once I start doing something, once I start working on a speech, start refining it, start getting excited about it, I find that that fear will slowly fade away until the day of the speech. And now here we get into some very, very practical ideas. Now, we've already talked about practicing, how that is the avenue to dealing the best way with fear. Here's some other ideas. Not only do you practice, but by visiting other clubs and presenting material, you have a chance to present in front of people that you're not normally presenting in front of. That in itself can build up your confidence and decrease your level of fear, because you see that people outside of your home club want to support you and build you up and give you such excellent feedback like everyone else that it's easier to build up your confidence than it is to get undermined with that self-defeating aspect. Now, I put this question to several people, and I received many different responses. This one in particular I want to read at length because of the depth of the response that I received. It goes, I have not competed, but I certainly believe that volunteering as a support person, a judge, a ballot counter, has helped me grow. Just interacting with speakers and other supporters has taught me a great deal about leadership. Well, then I followed up with a question. I asked, is there any reason that you have not competed? And the response back was, you're asking a tough question. I'm not really sure what holds me back from competing. I enjoy speaking at the club level. Even table topics no longer scares me. But the thought of delivering my own prepared speech at a competition terrifies me. Maybe it's like other areas I procrastinate over. I wanted to be perfect, but I put it off to avoid having to live up to my own high expectations. For instance, I may have great ideas for a speech, but I postpone the prep work in order to excuse myself from disappointment. If I do fairly well at the last minute, I am happy with the outcome. I don't have to take responsibility for a well-prepared speech that might fall flat. Maybe I should work harder at speeches I present to the club to gain more confidence at attempting a competitive speech. That particular Toastmaster's response to being asked about their own fear really resonated with me. Some of you know that I have a history in theater. Well, being in theater, it's a whole lot easier to be a different character. In Toastmasters, you are yourself in front of other people. And for me, that has been the basis of so much of that fear, of being vulnerable in front of other people, of being human, of presenting that side. And that has been the hurdle that has taken the longest to get over. Now, the final practical piece of advice for getting past fear, that happens on contest day. Now, specifically with contest day, here are a few things to specifically do, very specifically, yes, I like the word specifically. Arrive early. You don't want to rush at the last minute. You don't want to be racing in as they're trying to figure out who's going to speak in what order, because that just builds up your level of anxiety and doesn't put you at your best to give a presentation or to do an evaluation. bring somebody who is supportive for you. Especially if you're giving a speech that is very emotional, bring somebody who will be there to support you, even if you flub, even if you miss a section, even if all of that happens and nobody in the audience figures it out. It's nice to have somebody there that you can touch base with and go back to and just say, wow, well, I can work better on this one, or that was a really good one. But having that person there has been very important for myself. And lastly, be sure to be nice to yourself. I have this self-critical voice in my head that runs near constantly. It's going at the same time as everything else is going on. In fact, it's rattling off in the back of my head right now. It is through practice that I've been able to set that voice aside, to mute it, to set it to the point where it doesn't control every single decision. But only the beginning of that point was stopping and just saying, hey, I have something to say. I am going to have fun doing it. I am going to evaluate this person. I am going to enjoy this time because I am going to be nice to myself. So that being nice to yourself and believing you have something to say go hand in hand. Those two elements will help you get past that fear in a very tangible way. Now, granted, I don't know how everybody experiences fear because fear is a very personal thing. It's a very personal demon that rides on our backs and taunts us from time to time. Fantastically, some of us don't have to deal with it as much as others, but you would be surprised at how much the people that you admire, because they look so effortless at speaking, have to deal with fears and anxieties on a regular daily basis. Believe me, that is happening. These are the tangible pieces of getting past fear. Now, you may come up with your own, and I would suggest, especially if this is a subject that you deal with or you are mentoring somebody that is dealing with fear issues, have them go around and ask people that they admire speaking. Just have them ask them, how do you deal with the fear? I think that they will be encouraged and supported, and their confidence will be built up to realize that they're not the only one, and that other people have some really good tips on how to deal with it. I talked to one person that said that they were going to get one of those full-body shiatsu massage chairs, and that's how they were going to deal with their fear every time a contest came up. Well, then I quickly pointed out that they weren't competing, and they said, that's fine. Contests are still stressful, and I need a massage chair. I think it's a really good idea. I have to agree. I wouldn't mind a massage chair myself. All right. Now remember, at the end of it all, no matter what level of fear that you face, be sure to celebrate your achievement. You're competing, you are helping yourself, you are getting better in so many ways. Celebrate that fact. After a contest, do something nice for yourself. Take your support person out and have a chai latte, or go to bed early. For some of us, that is a celebration, to get some extra rest. Or you can pet your cat, and she's sitting in the background screaming at you to open the door. Either way. All right, let's move on to the next section. Our next section is resources. Resources. Much like the telecom world, you can be standing in the middle of a field with nothing around you, and you still have access to a world of resources. Resources are, well, there's a plethora of resources, in fact. Several people have asked me what the best area to look at for crafting a speech is. I have to tell them exactly what my mentor told me several years ago. Use your own life story. Because you don't have to worry about fact-checking because you lived it. And if somebody disagrees with the facts, well, they weren't there a lot of times. So not only do you have a rich history of experiences throughout your life that you lived, you have a very, very colorful cast of characters, people that have helped you in many different ways, people that have said things to you that have resonated. to you over the years, down the years, whether it was your mom, whether it was your grandmother, maybe it was your college professor. So many people have had an impact on our lives, and their messages can resonate for others in many, many ways that we don't understand. Now, a very tactical and helpful resource, the contest rules and the judge's score sheet. A lot of the new contestants don't realize that they have access to these as tools. Contests are judged differently than a regular speech. Once you're able to get a hold of that judging sheet, you're able to see the different areas in which the judges are encouraged to look at. If you are a new contestant, or even an old contestant, and you haven't actually researched or looked at the judges sheet, do so. By all means, do so. If you are mentoring a contestant, or if you have a club that has several new contestants in there, print off copies of the contest judges sheet and hand them out, especially for the speech contest and the evaluation contest. Well, especially considering those are the two contests that we're facing. But get those out to the people that are competing so that they can see the areas, those areas that count that may not weigh as much as other areas. This is important as you get past the area into division and especially district, and if you go further than that, even more important, because you're facing people that don't know you, that haven't seen you, that don't know how you evaluate, that don't know how you present your story. So they are going to be relying on those score sheets. Now, if you want to get a sense of the past winners, go to YouTube. It is full of people doing Toastmasters presentation, especially even the world champions. They are out there. You're able to see what their speeches look like. There are plenty of speeches out there from contestants at area levels, at division levels. Oftentimes the audio isn't the best, but yet you're able to see how other people are competing, see how they're presenting their material, and even get some tips from that. A key resource for everyone in the area is, of course, to go to other clubs. I got a response back from a contestant that really cued in on the last one, being the target speaker. She would take her contest speech before contest season, work on it, and then when the contest season went around, she went to a bunch, I don't recall how many she actually told me she went to, but there were a lot of clubs that she went to asking if they needed a target speaker. And so she was able to present her contest speech, and she had 5 and 6 different people offering her evaluations as part of the contest, so that through that process she was able to revise her speech and take it to the next level. I think that's a great way to do double duty, especially with getting out there to present your speech to people you haven't talked to, but also to get a whole lot of evaluations. Another resource being specialty clubs. There are several specialty clubs within the Portland area. The top one that comes to my mind, especially this time of year, is competitive speakers. They are specifically designed to address competitive speaking situations. Contests are what they thrive at. So right there you've got competitive speaking for both, spring contest and fall contest. Another club that comes to mind is Feedbackers, because they specifically focus on evaluations. That is primarily all they do. Check out what other specialty clubs there are, or even clubs that have a tie in the specialty area. Maybe Story Masters, maybe one of the other clubs that has a direction that you want to go with a speech or even an evaluation that you're doing. But don't forget about your mentors. If you don't have one, get one. If you don't have a mentee, get one. Because as a mentor, you grow really a lot. Really a lot. Well, let's just say you're going to grow by leaps and bounds by having a mentee, working with them, helping them craft their speech or get ready for an evaluation, just as much as a mentor will help you. Now, even if you've been around for a long time and you've seen everything, you've done all that, finding somebody that you admire who presents well, ask them if they'd be willing to be your mentor. My guess is you're going to learn a few things, and they're going to learn them in the process, because that relationship is very much a give and take, back and forth. You can't help but get better in that process. The last item there, the video and audio courses, very, very wide category. That can encompass all of the YouTube videos. But specifically what I'm thinking of here are the different video and audio packets that previous conference keynote speakers have provided, either for purchase, well, most likely for purchase. I'm thinking back to just the recent contest that we had. Patricia Frick was there. Of course, she was selling her products, and I got a set of those. And before that, when Craig Valentine was around, I had the opportunity to borrow somebody's materials that he had presented. They have decades of experience, and they have thousands and thousands of people that they have pulled from, that they have talked to in their own coaching, in their own devising speeches, in their own presentation models, that the information that they provide is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Ask around in your club, find out if somebody has a copy of those DVDs or audio courses, and maybe they'd be willing to let you borrow them to be able to listen to them. Or even, if they're hesitant, you could say, hey, could I rent them from you? You could turn it into a positive interaction for both of you on both sides. Another video or audio course you could think about are online classes. Now, the one that comes to mind specifically helps the most for the upcoming humorous speech contest is theater or improv. It's called, used to be called theater arts. It helps you deal with comedy in a more free-flowing, impromptu format. I know several comedy clubs downtown have kind of a theater arts aspect to them where they get people up on stage to work things through. There are workshops, PCC has classes. You can go as deep as you want to learn how to be a better presenter through being keep those ideas coming, because the more resources that you have that you're able to use, for some reason I was the one that just got muted there, so now I am back again, and hopefully you didn't lose a whole lot of content. Very interesting. All right, as you wrap up and look at resources, recall that the most important thing about contest season, about clubs in general, even about Toastmasters, is the importance of having fun. Contests, conferences, club meetings, special events, it's all about helping other people. It's all about building ourselves up. It's about becoming better presenters, more effective leaders, and having fun in the process. So I hope that this was informative for you on some level, that maybe it was able to address something that you were asking yourself. I will now open it up for questions, and I will turn it over at this point to Leanna so that she can run the board to open it up for questions. Thank you all for being here, and I turn it over to Leanna for questioning. Take it away.
If you have a question, you see that you have a little hand. Would you go ahead and raise your hand, please? It'll be next to your name. If you have a question for James. Okay, Donna has a question. I'm just going to go ahead and unmute you. Okay, Donna, your question, please.
James, I was really happy to see that you focused on having fun. We've been fortunate in our district to be exposed to at least 2 or 3 different people who have won the World Championship. And those who go in with the attitude of I want to grow and I want to have fun seem to get so much more out of the experience than those who go in saying I want to win.
Indeed, absolutely. I mean, if you just think about the numbers, there's really only one winner per year. That means the rest of us need to have a lot of fun. And it helps take some of the gravity off of a contest if you're able to go in there and say, you know what, it doesn't matter what happens here. I'm going to compete at the best of my ability, or I'm going to compete at the ability at which I am at today. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to meet people. I am going to enjoy myself. And that's been the best approach for me in contests. I mean, I would imagine, Donna, that you can think of a lot of people that discovered that contests were a lot more fun than they thought they'd be.
Mm-hmm. My very first speech contest was a president of a fairly new club, and our area director was encouraging us to get involved, so not thinking anybody would take me up on it, I stood in front of my club and said, okay, I will if you will, and I ended up being one of 5 contestants. My knees shook. I remember the adrenaline, and I thought my knees were going to buckle. But it felt pretty darn good afterwards. I can see my little red second place ribbon from where I'm sitting now.
Nice.
And absolutely. It was a growth opportunity that had I not taken that chance, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's one of those where you don't really realize the benefits until you've taken the chance and gone through it and then come out the other side and gone, wow, I'm still alive, and golly, that roller coaster was kind of fun. I think that's why roller coasters are so popular, is people get on them, ride them through, and realize, woo, that was kind of fun. So maybe we should, that's what the Toastmasters contests are all about, is riding the roller coaster. Hopefully less nausea.
Okay, thank you, Donna, for your question. Do we have any other questions?
Or comments, if somebody wants to share their experience or a resource that I didn't cover, a way to handle fear, by all means. This is completely open.
Okay, David, we'll see if, okay, David has, how do you celebrate the winners and console those who didn't win?
How do you celebrate the winners and console those who didn't win? Well, we already have a structure set in place for celebrating the winners because they get the first place ribbons or they get the trophies. So the attention is given to them primarily, which is great. They deserve it. The more challenging side of that is how to celebrate those who didn't. And that's where I go back to saying having a support person or having somebody there, especially if you're competing in an area or a division that you're not familiar with, around clubs that you haven't been around, and there might be a lot of Toastmasters you don't necessarily know. Although it is a supportive and warm environment, having somebody there who says, hey, you know what, this was good. Here's how you could improve it for next time, or if you want to work on it a little bit more, or for that matter, you know what, we're just going to go have some coffee right now, or maybe have a piece of cake. Maybe we're going to do something just take our minds off of it. Everybody approaches this in a slightly different way. In theater, there was always the cast party that I looked forward to, even after a terrible performance. Oftentimes, after a show, many of us would go out and have coffee or something like that. one of the clubs that I'm in now, we have kind of that tradition. After the club meeting is over, several of us will go to a coffee shop, sit, talk about things. I think that's a great way to handle contests as well. It allows you to come down a little bit off the adrenaline, allows you to just kind of take a breath and realize, hey, I'm still alive and I'm not being hurt by anything. That's how I would suggest supporting those that haven't won. And answering phones as they ring in the background. All right, so we'll see if anybody else has any questions or comments or other tidbits. I'm not sure if Leanna is away or not. Roger, all right, I think I got you unmuted. Are you there, sir? Oh boy. Now I got to try and work the board here.
Here we go.
There you are. Hi there.
Yes. Unmute my mic. You've done several competitions over the last several years in Toastmasters, and I've watched you grow over a period of time. I'm not in your club, but I've seen you grow in the district. And I know you haven't won a lot of top awards. So after you've competed and you didn't win the contest that you were aiming at, how do you go back and pull things together and kind of regroup yourself?
Good question. Last year for me was a difficult year when I was competing. I did go on to take the evaluation contest for the district, which was fantastic. The side of it that I struggled with the most was the speech contest, because I chose a very personally emotional subject to present, and every single time I did that speech was such a ride of those emotions and bringing everything back up and reliving it, that at the division when I didn't win, I knew that I had to set everything aside. And there was a brief moment right after they announced my, that I had taken second place as opposed to first place, that I was relieved, because there was part of me that said, I don't have to give that speech again. I don't have to go through that roller coaster. So there was a little bit of relief, and then there was that letdown of, oh man, I really wanted to compete at district. That would have been so cool. So that day, I specifically said, all right, I'm not dealing with this whatsoever. I remember it was a very sunny Saturday, and I went out to eat. I took a friend of mine. We went out. We didn't talk about the contest. We didn't cover anything about that. I just took a day or two to process it. And then I went back and spoke with several of the people that were at the contest with a simple question of, how could I have made that better? And I got some really good feedback that I'd wish that I'd had before the contest, because maybe I could have made it better then. So that's my way of answering your question. For every single person, it's slightly different. But as with any contestant, you lose more than you win.
Yeah, I was just curious to that exact situation, so you answered it very well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. Is there anyone else who has? Oops, someone has it.
I got it back. That was my phone ringing. So I muted myself for a while. Any other questions? Okay. It looks like you have answered all of them.
All right, wonderful. As everyone moves towards contest season, whether you're going to be a support person, which is incredibly important because contests cannot be run without sergeant of arms, timers, ballot counters, judges, Toastmasters contest chairs. In fact, there are more people working behind the scenes than there are in front of scenes. There was a saying in the theater that the smoother the play was, that meant the more preparation had happened behind the scenes. Now, as you look around at the presenters that you admire and those that have competed well, remember that they didn't get there because they were born to that position. They worked towards it. And I'd like to leave you with one final personal story of mine. I joined Toastmasters in 2008, and my first contest beyond the club level was in 2012, when I finally got up enough courage to compete in the evaluation contest in a speech and competed in the club, and I won those, so I was able to go to the area contest. And I'd never seen any of these other people because I hadn't gone to any of their club meetings. I hadn't met with them. I knew a few people that had come in to visit our club, so I knew a couple people in leadership, like the area governor at the time. And I'm at the evaluation contest. The target speaker gets up and gives her speech, and I get up to compete. And the first thing I say when I get up there to begin my evaluation is, I don't think you were ready to give that speech. I think you pulled that out of your pocket at the last minute because the person who was supposed to speak probably called in sick. You weren't prepared. That's how I began that evaluation. And at the time, I thought it was a good evaluation because I thought it was my job to point out how bad she was. Well, the second evaluator got up, and it was completely different. It was supportive. It was, this is what you did well. This is how you could improve. And right before that person got up to do their evaluation, my mentor leaned over the seat and whispered calmly in my ear, "What did you just do?" And I didn't understand it. But then I heard the next evaluator, and then the next area contest that we were paired with, and their evaluators, and I figured it out. I figured out exactly what was wrong with the club that I was in. We were harsh. We were critical. We believed it was our job to keep people away from completing their manuals unless they had done perfectly. Now, it may not necessarily be a surprise to say that we had problems keeping members, but this is what we believed was the way to do things. By going outside of my club and outside of my comfort zone and listening to other people, I realized we had it wrong. We definitely weren't being very effective. And I have to credit that experience and so many of the mentors I've had over the years that have helped me refine my message and get so much more clear on how to best help people as opposed to pointing out criticisms. Because, well, frankly, in this world, there are far too many criticisms flying around. I don't want to be the one to add more to it. So hopefully, as a result of either the webinar or all your experiences in Toastmasters, we can work together at becoming more effective communicators and better presenters and have fun process. So I thank you all very much for your time, for joining us on this webinar, and I will turn it over to Leanna for the final tidbits, and may you all have a great evening.